It saddens me to see how many of my former colleagues are so easily and willing to throw the Constitution under the bus, to talk about freedom as though it is something disposable, when really that is the principle and the foundation that unites us. It saddens me to see people abusing their positions of power to divide us as Americans, to use identity politics to tear us apart, saying because you're part of one tribe and you're part of another tribe, your arrows should be pointed at each other rather than standing together as Americans, as one nation under God.
All right, guys, so we got to talk about Tulsi Gabbard, whom finally has left the Democrat Party. Now, this is a move that I am totally not surprised about because it is something that you could have easily saw coming based off how Tulsi has been rebranding herself. Now, Tulsi Gabbard used to be a progressive Democrat, okay? Let's not, pretend that she wasn't anything less than a progressive. She was a progressive. However, after being rejected by the Democrat Party in more ways than one, specifically when it comes to her views on certain civil liberties, aka being against the deep state, I think Tulsi saw the direction of the Democrat Party and the authoritarianism that was really becoming very prevalent in the Democrat Party, and she started to have a political awakening, right? And she slowly started to realign her branding to become a lot more conservative. And what I'm really surprised about here is not just the fact that she is leaving the Democrat Party, but that she is also calling for others like herself who have been disappointed with the Democrat Party, particularly in their pursuit of taking away our civil liberties and fundamental rights, to also leave the Democrat Party. And of course, this has caused liberal media outrage because it really is a bad sign for the Democrats when you have former Democrat politicians like Tulsi Gabbard who has decided to leave the party due to how crazy and woke the Democrat Party has become. So without further ado, let's go ahead and play the clip of Tulsi Gabbard explaining and announcing her decision to leave the Democrat Party.
I can no longer remain in today's Democratic Party that's under the complete control of an elitist cabal of warmongers who are driven by cowardly wokeness, who divide us by racializing every issue and stoking anti-white racism, who actively work to undermine our God-given freedoms that are enshrined in our Constitution, who are hostile to people of faith and spirituality, who demonize the police but protect criminals at the expense of law-abiding Americans, who believe in open borders, who weaponize the national security state to go after their political opponents, and above all, who are dragging us ever closer to nuclear war. Now, I believe in a government that's of the people, by the people, and for the people. Unfortunately, today's Democratic Party does not. Instead, it stands for a government that is of, by, and for the powerful elite. Now, I'm calling on my fellow common sense, independent-minded Democrats to join me in leaving the Democratic Party. If you can no longer stomach the direction that the so-called woke Democratic Party ideologues are taking our country, then I invite you to join me.
Yeah, so that is Tulsi Gabbard making it clear why she is leaving the Democrat Party. Now, it's unclear exactly where she's going, okay? Is she going to become a Republican? She's going to be a Libertarian? She's going to join the Ford Party? It's unclear. Maybe she will stay independent, right? Maybe she will play the field, see her options, and maybe join another political party later on. However, what is clear is that there is a political rebranding that is happening with Tulsi Gabbard, evidenced by the fact that she used to be kind of anti-Second Amendment, right? In the sense that she called for a ban on military-style assault weapons while she was in Congress, but now she's posting videos of her doing tactical training exercises, which, again, is almost like a 180 in regards to her views on gun control. And this is something that she needs to address, especially if she's trying to align herself with the conservative movement, which it seems like she is. And she did, in fact, address this in her first episode of the podcast that she put out, in which she announces that she's leaving the Democrat Party. She does, in fact, talk about the Second Amendment to address some of these concerns that conservatives have that are not necessarily embracing her, because, again, she is pretty progressive on some of these issues, again, like gun control and healthcare. And again, Tulsi Gabbard is addressing some of this stuff on her podcast. Take a look.
Today's Democratic Party does not believe in our constitutionally protected right to bear arms. Now, our founders passed the Second Amendment out of a recognition that every one of us as Americans has a right to defend ourselves and our loved ones, and to serve as a check on a tyrannical government seeking to take away our God-given freedoms. The Democratic Party's hatred of the Second Amendment and their increasing authoritarian instincts poses a serious threat to our freedoms. Hell yes, we're going to take your AR-15, your AK-47, said Beto O'Rourke at a debate when he was running for president. That's just one example of many that display this hatred for the Second Amendment by leading Democrats in this country. Our founders intentionally passed the Second Amendment right after the First Amendment. The majority ruling from the recent Supreme Court striking down New York's law that barred people from concealed carry firearms really summarized clearly why Democrats are so wrong to try to take away our Second Amendment rights. And I want to read this statement from that ruling because it really says it so clearly. Just as we do not need to seek a permit to stand on the street corner and exercise our right to free speech, we shouldn't have to seek permission for a law-abiding citizen to carry a firearm. Now, we as a society don't get to pick and choose which of our rights in the Constitution are more worthy of protecting than another. End of quote. So protecting our freedom to defend ourselves and those we love, and protecting our rights and freedoms enshrined in the Constitution against a tyrannical power is exactly why we must ensure that our right to bear arms shall not be infringed.
Yeah, so she doesn't specifically address her support for banning so-called military-style assault weapons in the past, but you would imagine that if she was asked about it today, she probably would have a very different stance on that. However, again, Tulsi, in her political realignment, she definitely needs to address certain issues and certain policy stances that she had when she was a Democrat, if she is to be fully embraced by conservatives. Again, I don't know if she's trying to be a Republican, but I do know she is trying to align herself with conservatives. She doesn't seem to be quite moderate, okay? She seems definitely to be thoroughly on the right, and I'm going to tell you guys why I believe that she's going in that direction. However, first I want to get into the mainstream liberal media reaction, as, of course, they are attacking her as a bigot, right? Which, again, that's exactly what the mainstream liberal media defaults to when they have no real criticism of you. And in this case, I mean, who can blame her for leaving the Democrat Party considering how far left and extreme they got, which is exactly kind of the point of this video, right? This is a bad sign for the Democrat Party that somebody like Tulsi Gabbard, who was once a progressive, is leaving the party because of the extremism, the woke extremism. Again, you see this happening a lot here. I mean, look at Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan's came out and just openly said, look, I'll vote for Trump and DeSantis over Joe Biden, right? In the Democrats right now. Okay, just considering the direction of this country. Again, you're losing moderates, right? Democrats are losing sane people, and they're losing them quickly, okay? So that being said, Rolling Stone, which is a mainstream liberal media outlet, again, is attacking Tulsi Gabbard, right? Calling her a right-wing propagandist and basically saying that she's a bigot as well, too. So let's read about this. Tulsi Gabbard, the former 2020 presidential candidate and current Fox News talking head, announced on Tuesday that she is leaving the party she sought to represent in the White House. Gabbard's bona fides as a Democrat were suspect even as she was running for president. She has a history as an anti-LGBTQ activist with the organization she worked for, Alliance for a Traditional Marriage, describing homosexuality as, quote, unhealthy, abnormal behavior that should not be promoted or accepted in society. She tried to claim ahead of her presidential campaign that she was committed to working for equal rights for all, but her bigoted past and anti-woke present indicate any overtures to equality were simply part of a ploy for power. Gabbard didn't come close to winning the nomination and has since carved out a role as a right-wing pundit, misquandering as a token Democrat on Fox News. She even guest hosted Tucker Carlson Tonight following the FBI's raid of former President Donald Trump's Mar-a-Lago estate in August. Quote, now, whatever your views are on Donald Trump, there's no denying that the unprecedented raid on his Palm Beach home earlier this week has set our country on a dangerous new course, and there's no turning back, she said. I mean, that's facts. That's facts. Gabbard has returned to her roots as an opponent of LGBTQ plus Americans as well. She railed against trans rights, and not only did she support Florida Governor Ron DeSantis' Don't Say Gay bill, she said it wasn't extreme enough. Quote, but as I read the legislation, I gotta tell you, I was shocked to learn that it only protects kids from kindergarten to third grade, she said of the bill to suppress discussion of sexuality in schools. Quote, third grade, what about 12th grade or not at all? Facts. More things that I agree with from Tulsi Gabbard. You know, when the mainstream liberal media is attacking her, I think that's a good thing. It may have been her message at the Conservative Political Action Conference earlier this year. However, that best illustrates how Gabbard was, is, and always full of ish. Quote, I'm going to talk about the need for us to actually treat each other with respect and end this tribalism and divisiveness that's tearing us apart, she said in explaining her appearance at the right-wing conference in to Politico. It's unclear where calling Democrats an elitist cabal of warmongers driven by cowardly wokeness fits into her push for unity. Yeah, well, it's unclear where Joe Biden calling MAGA Republicans extremists, domestic terrorists, and semi-fascist. I'm unsure where that fits into calls for unity, right? So with that being said, what I think is going on here with Tulsi? Well, I think what is going on here with Tulsi is partly that she does have a legitimate change in heart in regards to her political views, but I also think more than anything, she's saying where the political winds are blowing, right? I think that Tulsi is trying to align herself to be a vice presidential nominee for whoever wins the GOP ticket in 2024 or possibly in the future. Now, I'm unsure whether or not she will actually run for an elected position in regards to being in Congress. However, I do think her ultimate goal is to be vice president. I really do think that that is where she's trying to align herself. And to be quite honest with you, from a political standpoint, let's say it's Ron DeSantis, right? Let's say he's the presidential nominee. It would be extremely smart for him to pick somebody like Tulsi Gabbard, who used to be a former Democrat that has now, you know, at that point, maybe even become a Republican or is, you know, more aligned with conservatives, because she can kind of speak to those Democrats that are not satisfied with the Democrat Party because she was in the party. And I think that she can bring over a lot of those kind of left-leaning libertarians who, again, are not satisfied with the Democrats and their policies and that want to give the Republican Party a look. However, they're just not all the way there yet. Right. So I think she's really trying to position herself to be a vice presidential nominee, right? To be the pick for whoever's going to be the GOP nominee in 2024. I really do believe that that is where she's trying to align herself, and that is where her political aspirations are. Okay. So again, I don't necessarily know if all of this is a legitimate, you know, change of heart. I'm not saying it's not. I'm not really going to question it because I don't know. But what I do know is that politically for her, this is good because she is somebody that a lot of people on the right like. She's always been on the side of being anti-deep state, right? She's always went against the grain in regards to being against the establishment. But again, there are some questions about some of her policy positions, like, for example, her stances on guns and, you know, healthcare and certain other more economic-oriented policy positions that she has that are more progressive. If she can straighten those things out, and reconcile those things, I think that she would be a prime vice presidential pick for whoever wins the GOP nomination. And I think that that's ultimately what her goal is. So let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.